All right, let's jump right into this explainer and take a look at the highly fascinating and honestly high stakes world of maritime navigation. Today, we're exploring the 2026 edition of the COLREGs. Now, that stands for the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea. I know, it sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but it's essentially the ultimate playbook for exactly how human beings share the oceans.
When you think about it, without painted lanes or traffic lights or crosswalks out there, you really gotta wonder how massive vessels safely navigate the watery chaos of our globe. We are talking about massive supertankers, tiny fishing boats, and everything in between, all sharing the exact same vast, unmarked environment. How do they not just bump into each other all the time?
Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the rules of the sea, defining maritime traffic, core steering and sailing, establishing right-of-way, handling navigational hazards, and finally, sending distress signals. Let's start with Section 1, the rules of the sea. Basically, the highway code of the ocean. The absolute most crucial point here is that whether you're way out in the deep international waters of the Pacific Ocean or just pulling into a connected, navigable harbor like New York or Shanghai, this universal maritime law applies to you. It is the ultimate equalizer. There's literally no escaping the COLREGs if your water connects to the high seas. Moving right along to Section 2, defining maritime traffic, or who's who on the water. Rule 3 keeps things incredibly simple. Basically, if your craft has an engine turning a propeller, or really any kind of mechanical propulsion, you're officially classified as a power-driven vessel. And that covers the whole shebang, from a billionaire's mega yacht right up to a massive container ship. Now, here's a really vital definition to wrap your head around. Being underway doesn't actually mean you are moving forward. It just means a ship is floating freely in the water. So even if your engines are completely stopped and you're just drifting, you are legally considered underway. As long as you aren't physically tied down to the earth, by an anchor, a dock, or by being stuck on the bottom, you are underway and fully subject to the steering rules. What's super interesting to me is how the rules actually look to the future. They explicitly cover wing and ground craft. These are those wild, advanced flying boats that glide literally inches above the waves, utilizing surface effect action. Even though they're practically flying, because they operate right on the water's surface, the COLREGs treat them just like any other maritime vessel. All right, Section 3, core steering and sailing. This is all about driving the open ocean. Captains can't just look for a speed limit sign on the side of the ocean. Rule 6 actually mandates that they constantly calculate a safe speed using a really strict dynamic checklist. They've got to factor in visibility, how crowded the shipping lanes are, the specific stopping distance of their massive vessel, the weather, and even if shore lights are blinding their night vision. It's an active, ongoing calculation. So how do they actually know if they're going to hit someone? Well, imagine you're looking out the window of your bridge. If you see another ship getting bigger and bigger, but it's staying in the exact same spot on your window, meaning its compass bearing isn't changing, well, you are on a collision course. It's a simple, reliable geometric truth that mariners use every single day to stay safe. Which brings us to Section 4, establishing right-of-way. Who exactly yields to whom? When two ships cross paths, the responsibility is totally split down the middle. One ship gets designated as the giveaway vessel. Under Rule 16, they must take early, really obvious and substantial action to dodge the other ship. The other ship is the stand-on vessel. Under Rule 17, they absolutely must predictably hold their exact course and speed. You can't have both ships guessing and swerving, right? One has to be the predictable rock, while the other does the dodging. This setup brilliantly illustrates the ocean's overall pecking order. Rule 18 creates a hierarchy that's based purely on maneuverability. Standard power-driven ships, they're at the bottom. They have the engine power to easily get out of the way, so they have to yell to almost everyone. Sailing vessels come next, followed by fishing vessels dragging heavy nets. And at the very top of the hierarchy are vessels not under command, say a ship with a broken steering gear. Because they physically cannot move, everyone else has to keep out of their way. Makes total sense, right? That leads us into Section 5, handling navigational hazards. We're talking narrow channels, dense fog, and heavy traffic. When ships enter narrow channels, the rules shift to kind of mimic a tight two-lane road. Rule 9 dictates you've got to stick to the right side, the starboard side of the channel. You definitely shouldn't park or anchor in the middle of it. Furthermore, smaller vehicles like sailboats or vessels under 20 meters just cannot get in the way of the massive cargo ships that can only safely navigate within the deepest part of that specific channel.
But what happens when a massive fog bank rolls in, the crew is totally blinded, and they're relying solely on radar? That's where Rule 19 kicks in. Taking evasive action in the fog becomes this highly coordinated blind dance. The rule specifically states that if you detect a ship ahead of you on radar, you should generally avoid turning to port, which is left. By having a universal rule that basically says, hey, everyone dodge to the right, it prevents two blind ships from accidentally turning directly into each other.
Section 6. Sending distress signals. How to call for help when things go wrong.
Even though modern ships are absolutely packed with high-tech gear, the manual still mandates some incredibly dramatic, old-school analog methods for signaling distress. I mean, if your power goes out, you need physical ways to show you're in trouble. This includes literally waving your outstretched arms slowly up and down, letting off bright orange smoke, or, get this, even setting a tar or oil barrel on fire right on the deck of your ship just to attract attention.
Now, on the digital side, it's highly sophisticated. Vessels can obviously broadcast the spoken word Mayday over the radio, but they can also trigger digital selective calling alerts. These systems instantly beam a ship's exact coordinates and the nature of their distress directly to rescuers via satellite and emergency radio beacons. So even if the crew literally can't speak, the ship itself can call for rescue. But for all these highly technical details, the COLREGs still hold a deep, deep respect for human intuition. Rule 2 philosophically reminds us that no legal manual can ever replace common sense. You can't just excuse a collision by saying, well, I followed the rules mechanically. The convention explicitly states that crews are responsible for taking any precaution required by the ordinary practice of seamen. You have to use your brain, your experience, and your good judgment out there. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating question for the future. As we rely more and more on advanced radar, satellites, and maybe very soon, fully autonomous AI captains steering drone cargo ships, will the age-old intuition of the sailor become obsolete? Will a computer ever truly understand the ordinary practice of seamen? Or are we looking at a future where this 2026 playbook needs a completely digital rewrite? It's definitely something to think about the next time you look out at the ocean. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your curiosity anchored.